welcome back to Smashing Heads Podcast. As always, my name is Zach, and I'm joined by my wife, Hannah.
Hey, what's up?
And as it used to be, I'm joined by my best friend, Jake.
And for the first time in a long time,
Yeah.
how's everybody doing tonight?
Well, it's not night for us yet. I mean, it's 4:50 right now.
Yeah, it's like late afternoon.
It's rainy. It's overcast outside.
Feels like night.
Yeah.
You know that our relationship has taken a turn when the time is different for us.
Well, yeah, it's been
it's
different.
5:50 where I'm at.
Yeah, I know.
It's
So it
not
is
quite the
almost
same.
nighttime.
Yeah, it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
I don't know if this has been a talking point at any time, but you have blonde hair now.
I don't. Have we talked about it?
I don't know.
Probably at some point.
Which I think is overall in your, 33 years of life or 34
34.
is a first. For
It's not
you.
at all. I was blonde for like the first 12 years of my life.
All right, but since
And you knew me for a lot of those.
you were more like a brownish blonde.
Yeah. Well, no,
This
I was like platinum blonde until I was about 10 years old. And then it like just slowly got darker.
Well, I think Han would say any day of the week that you are always the quality of platinum.
Would I?
Yeah. Hey, there's your dog.
There's
Which
my dog. He's right here.
Nobody could see this because this isn't
Yeah.
going to be video. It's just going to be audio. I mean, so yeah, I guess let's just set the table like right now. Like just get it out of the way.
You never came on to tell us how the wedding went.
No, not that. This is where we're at. We're setting the table for what to expect for this episode.
This is our red table talk.
No,
Jake is moving to Utah.
no. This is going to be, as far as we know, the last episode of this podcast, and it did not come without a lot of thinking and waffling back and forth on what the future holds and all that type of stuff. We'll get into some more, I guess, like why and things like that in a minute. But I mean, Jake, I think you can speak to this. You kind of got to the point before we did.
Yeah. So a lot for me. I guess those first 3.5 to 4-ish years were, I'm a single guy. I don't have any responsibilities to anyone or anything. I work and I've got, just these fun little things that I get to do, including this that are a lot of fun and that I think are really unique and that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do. And, then my now wife comes into the picture and, without sounding like too much of an adult, my responsibility shifted.
Yeah.
And, this was something that, I think, you guys would agree with it. It takes up a lot of time.
Yeah.
Not even just the podcasting part, but the actual like being invested into the show
Yeah.
part and being consistent with, having stuff up for our listeners and our patrons.
Well,
Because it wasn't
even-
just
It's
Yeah.
just watching the show, like making
Yeah.
time to watch the show and then also get together and like, it's a lot.
I
It's
mean, for the
become a
most part, there were when we would do this, I wouldn't leave your guys' house till like 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
most
And
nights.
I would stay up editing and like putting it all together and uploading it all that night a lot for at least the first 2 years.
Yeah. And so while, I had a blast doing it, for me, it became more of a chore. Just because like, I think when you're not able to take a break for something and recalibrate, it becomes stale. And even
Yeah.
just watching the show became like, I didn't look forward to it as much. Since I stopped doing the podcast, I haven't watched, other than taking Amanda through a few different older seasons, I haven't watched anything since, what was it? Is it Double Agents?
I don't remember. Yeah, I think that's right.
But
You didn't watch Spies, Lies, and Allies.
yeah, that would have been the last one then
Okay.
that I watched.
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
going back and watching those older seasons it just served as a reminder that the quality of the show has just gone down significantly.
Yeah. And more, it's not even that to me. it's more so the show's changed obviously since we started watching. Even since we started the podcast, it's changed. But even so, like since the heyday of when you and I were watching it, obviously it's changed. Like you've got to expect it to change. But what's been to me the problem more than anything is just fatigue. Like you did too much. Like when we started this, there used to be maybe 2 seasons every like year and a half, right? Like you do like 6 months of a show, you take 3-4 months off, then you do like 6 months of another show. And that was an okay cycle because then in the in-between times, we could kind of recuperate. We could watch a previous season on our own time. Like, we didn't have like, oh, it premieres this day, we got to get this up and going. So we would do that. But now, like for the last like 2 years, like it's just nonstop stuff. And like from a like recap standpoint, a handful of times seasons were running concurrently. Like we would still be on the MTV show and then something would premiere on Paramount Plus, and like you're having to recap 2 simultaneous things at the same time. And like I know like, oh wow, that sounds hard. Like it's not that, it's just too much of the same thing. It eventually will burn you out. It's like if you just like ate like the same food every single day, even if it was like your favorite thing. Like
the first 3 days of eating it for every meal is still fine.
Yeah.
It's like this new food that it's your favorite thing in the whole world right now.
Yeah.
But if the longer you do that, you get burnout on it.
And sorry, yeah, you can go ahead.
No, I liken it to, and we're going to celebrate this pod in a minute. We're just getting the,
I'm not going to be transparent about it.
Yeah. But, I liken it to, I used to really enjoy Tropical Smoothie Cafe. And I don't mean to bury them on this podcast.
We don't have those here. I do kind of miss that. Oh,
the closest one is 30 minutes away.
Okay, well, that's why. Yeah.
This buffalo chicken wrap they have, I loved it.
Good.
I like their quesadillas.
Really good.
Yeah.
And I actually got food poisoning from it a couple of months ago.
It's great.
And I don't eat it anymore. When I think about what I'd like to eat, it doesn't even cross my mind anymore.
So you're saying the challenge gave you mental food poisoning?
I got sick from it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want anything to do with it anymore. It's probably not that drastic, but just to paint a picture. But yeah, I think, like you said, you guys kind of hit the same point that I did, where it just wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah, and it's not, and it's obviously the show changed once you kind of stepped away, and we were still pushing through and trying to do it, but like
it wasn't quite as fun.
No, it was. I mean, like again, the more like we had a good chemistry, the three of us, obviously,
but like Jake and I would run down rabbit trails and set them on fire and giggle about it, and it was fun doing that because you're a lot more serious with it and try to rein us back in, and not having Jake to run around with mentally.
Well, and then there's those times where you would thump Hannah's toe, and it was a serious moment.
But by the way, like if anyone was not aware of the circumstances surrounding that, she kept putting her foot on my chair and was turning me away from my microphone. And I said, stop doing that. Get your foot off my chair. And she wouldn't do it. And so after a minute, I just thumped her toe.
I didn't know I was turning you away. My knee was hurting and I was trying to stretch my leg out.
Your toe was hurting.
It's still something I think about regularly because you reacted. If people would have just heard the sound, they would have thought you were throwing up, not crying, throwing up. I've heard you cry. You cry like a normal person, but I guess the pain was so significant.
And it was by the way, it
got me on the bone.
Left-handed.
That's
like I'm not left-handed. It wasn't like I like reared back and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get her." It was just like, "Get away."
That's exactly what happened. You did it to get me.
Anyway, like going. Let me just kind of set the table for you because I still talk to you a lot, but not as much about the show. And so like we finished the previous season, like the main MTV show. Everything was going good. The Paramount Plus War of the Worlds, which it's not that, World Champions, spinoff, like started, I think the next day. Like we didn't like there was no in between time at all.
That's what it was originally named, by the way, right?
It was War of the Worlds, and they're like, oh yeah, we have one of the top 5
Yeah.
seasons of the show is called War of the Worlds. Anyway, that premiered, and we got behind, just because of some work. Like again, like it's just like our schedules are not the same here, and it's hard to find time to like sit down and watch the show, and then find even more time to sit down and record. And because I mean, even though maybe the podcast is an hour and a half, like, like that means at minimum we're looking at 2.5 hours of like setting up and getting everything together and all that, not counting watching the show. And so we got behind, and I think we only watched 3 or 4 episodes of this new season, and we only recorded a podcast for the first 2. And then it's just like it all of a sudden just like hit, and it's like I don't even care to watch the rest of this season. And like this season is not bad, and it's got good people on it.
It's not bad, but it didn't get me excited to watch it like I used to be. I mean, or like All Stars would get me excited.
Yeah, I mean, half the cast is all new just, international people.
I don't know, maybe because it's too different, but also in the middle of all of this, I was commuting an hour one way to work and an hour back, sometimes an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And so like I would leave at like 7 a.m. and then I would get home and still have to work from home.
Yeah. And again, she's got to go to bed, and it's just like, it just became a chore. Like that's honestly what it was. And, it was hard to make time to like line this out. And then like, you get 1 week behind, and then you get like 2 weeks behind. And then at that point you're like, then you're feeling like, oh wow, we're really, we got to catch up.
You're not whelmed at that point.
Yeah.
You're overwhelmed.
And so like, I mean, that was a big part of it, is just like, I mean, like it's just so weird. 'Cause like, I have not had any desire to watch the rest of this current season.
I haven't either.
And
like I could.
And it's very, to me, like physically and like the whatever, it's very on par with what we've been going through. Like they even did some of the same like dailies and stuff from like the previous seasons. But yeah, I think ultimately it was like too much, too fast, and you're burning people out. And
MTV put out too much of a good thing.
And that's part of the problem, right? Is there is such a thing as like doing too much of a good thing and overloading.
Well, yeah, you'd rather people be asking for more than to be like, oh, I'm kind of tired of this.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's part of it. And then, and just to get fully transparent about things, like we haven't done interviews in a long time. And that was even the case when you were still around. I mean, what happened more than anything was MTV obviously saw how much potential revenue and ears are out there from podcasts and stuff like that. So we know they started their own thing with Tori and Anissa, right? And so ever since that launched, our numbers didn't dwindle, but when we would try to set up interviews, we basically hit like brick walls every time. And it was like, oh, well, we need to talk to my publicist, and then they need to clear it with MTV. And then like we would hit these things, and it would just kind of go around and around, and then nothing would come through. And so after doing that for a while, you're like, well, clearly they're wanting people to go on their own show. And then also they're pushing, you're not pushing, but they're like cool with people going to Challenge Mania just because Derek, has the background from the show for so long. So he's got connections with a lot of them. And so from us on like the outside looking in, like trying to just like reach out through like Instagram DMs and stuff like that. Like it was such like I can't even, there's probably at minimum 5 or 6 different people that we like tried to work with to bring on. And then it was like, oh, we'll talk to it just ran into nothing. And so like, that's why we stopped trying to do a lot of interviews, because not only that, scheduling that on top of our 3 schedules and it's just it was way too much. And so, I mean, again, like this wasn't like a decision that was made lightly. Like I've gone back and forth both ways,
wrestling with it for months.
yeah, honestly, because like you think back and you're like, well, yeah, I mean, it was like this kind of like really cool experience that we did for these last 5 years, or it's not quite 5 years, but it's basically. And I talked to my mom about it the other day, and she was like, oh yeah, she's like, Jake mentioned that, you guys are not going to do it anymore. And she's like, how long have you been doing it? And I was like, 5 years. And she was like, wow. She's like, I didn't realize it had been that long. And I was like, yes, like we've covered 17 different seasons of this show.
We've spent, I mean, just looking back at how the three of us, have spent so much time and so many years doing this, and how much fun we had and how close we were.
Yeah, I don't regret
doing
it.
I don't regret it either. But that almost makes it a harder decision. Like,
yeah,
like we've done it for so long, it's hard to walk away from.
and I don't want to say like this is like 100% like never gonna happen again, but I will say with a pretty decent amount of certainty, I don't envision it being a thing for at least the foreseeable future, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
who knows? Maybe after like some time off, we'll be like, you know what, our lives have kind of settled down, whatever, and we can kind of work it out. But it's just as
Maybe
of right
one day
now,
when we all live together in a compound,
yeah,
that would
Yeah.
change things.
Yeah, you never know. But I mean, look no further than, the highlights. I've got a couple of highlights saved on my personal Instagram from just
yeah,
these 5 years. And like some of it's just us being goofy and just interacting before we ever sit down to podcast. And then there's, clips of interviews I have on there. Like I'll never forget the 4-ish years that I was on here. Like there's stages and times in your life where
well, you're going through a lot of transitions.
yeah. But like I think Andy from The Office said it best in at the series finale when he said, I wish you knew you were, what was it? I wish we knew we were in the good times when we were actually in the good times.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I knew it was like I knew pretty early on, just, my story's been documented pretty heavily from the time we started this podcast. And, but, so while it wasn't easy for me to walk away from, it was, just like I think you guys experienced, like we're kind of entering into these different phases in life. And
Yeah.
this was something that demanded our time and quite a bit of our attention. And for me, like I just couldn't give anymore. And I don't look back on it.
Yeah.
I definitely made the right decision as far as walking away from it. But I do, like, I still credit a lot of the listeners and especially our patrons for a rough period of my life, like being a light in that season. And like I'm forever grateful for this and our friendship, our friendships and our relationship. Like that goes without saying. We were, for those of you who may not have caught on early on, I mean, Zach and I have been, we've been friends for a long time, but I mean, we've been best friends.
We went to church together as little kids. Although
Yeah.
you don't remember me having blonde hair, but we like became friends in like early high school, like I mean, maybe even a little bit before that.
Yeah.
And
But,
so
because of age and maturity, I think you were a little closer to like, some guys that were like 3 and 4 years older than us. But there was a point we hit where it was like, all right, now we're just naturally kind of best buds now. And then Hannah comes along and just,
comes wrong.
Yeah. And just fits right in. And like I think I'll always say I think that's what kind of set what we did apart, because we weren't just people thrown together on a podcast to talk about something. Like we just had a chemistry, and I think if anything worked for us, I think that's what made it fun for people to listen to us. Not because we necessarily had the best takes or the best opinions, but because I just thought we were a lot of fun,
I mean, yeah, that was always the biggest compliment we got was like, oh, it sounds like my friends just hanging out and, whatever. And, that's what we were going for. We weren't trying to be like, oh, we're going to really break this down analytically and say this person performs at this much percentage. Like, it's not that. Like,
No,
it's just, we're going to watch the show and just give our opinions on it.
For years before we started the podcast, we would go home after church on Wednesday nights and watch the new episode that aired.
They weren't on Wednesdays then.
At one point right beforehand, they were on Wednesday nights.
It used to be Tuesday. Yeah, they changed to Wednesdays at one point.
Regardless, we would be at home and we'd watch the new episode because I would be like live texting actually Jake's ex-wife while we were watching it. And so like we were already having the conversations. We just thought, well, why don't we just record it and just see what happens?
Yeah, and like it's been a lot. Like it's been like I'd say 95% like good times. Like they're in full like transparency, like there's some completely crazy people that are involved in this challenge world, and there've been some like bad times where it's like really annoying to like deal with people on social media and stuff.
Oh, I don't think we really fit in to
we didn't
the challenge landscape. But like just again talking about the good, like I think even, and look, we don't really talk to anybody we interviewed anymore, but like how cool is it that we had Wes on a couple of times.
Well, yeah, he reached out to us to come on.
Yeah, and we had him on a couple of times, and I give him my whole rundown and my life story and everything, and then I can't remember if it was when I made the post on my Facebook about getting engaged or getting married.
Yeah,
but he just comments on my post and he's like, "My job here is done," as if he ever really played the wingman.
He didn't do anything.
He wanted to be, but like that's freaking cool, man. Yeah. Like I get to watch these old seasons with my wife and be like, "Hey, I at one point was tight with this guy. I don't know what he thinks about me now, but I don't know. It's just a really cool deal to be able to, have talked to the people we talked to and built the relationships we did and everything. I think one of my great regrets was with the one time we got together with our patrons.
Yeah,
I was in a really bad relationship, and I just really didn't spend a lot of time with our patrons, and I regret that.
Yeah.
I really thought, Han, we were all going to get them to the wedding, but you guys didn't even come to the wedding.
You scheduled it when we had to move.
Yeah.
And also initially you're like, it's only going to be family. And so we're like, all right. And then like, but, oh, you guys are coming, right? And we're like, well, we got to move now.
But didn't you guys already know that your family?
Well, I think you made it sound like,
you told us you were getting eloped.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I know what
you
I
said. You were eloping, and then you absolutely did not elope. You just had a small ceremony.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, like, we I don't think any of us ever envisioned like the like level this would go to when we started. And like, yeah, it's not like crazy compared to maybe some other podcasts or whatever. But I mean, like, I want to say we're around like 700,000 downloads in like 130 countries and stuff. And it's like,
if only we had made it to 1 million.
Yeah. And honestly, I stopped checking the stats. I think it's part of the burnout a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, it's crazy that reach happened. And, what's even crazy is like this, like that's happening right now is like a reminder of like what it was like when we didn't have like, oh, we got to keep up with, doing this and this and this, like just doing this part. Like this is fun. Like this isn't stressful. This isn't anything, but it's just like having to sit there and talk about like the same 11 people that are on like every season, and it just kind of wore us out. But I mean, more than anything, yeah, like I mean, Jake said earlier, like we're super grateful to everyone who ever listened, to everyone who supported us.
The friends that we've made.
Yeah, and
I've made so many friends that I haven't gotten to meet in person, but I know that they're like actual friends that I have.
yeah, and I'm not going to try to shout everybody out, but like, you know who you are. Like if you're patrons, especially, and you like have been around for a while, like trust me, like this wouldn't be where it was without like support like that. But at the same time, like this isn't our job. Like if this was our full-time job, like, yeah, we would probably all continue to do this. Like if we were making enough money and whatever, but like at the end of the day, you know, doing this in like what little free time we have, and then like putting that all together and then calculating like fees of like website, Zoom, like just random crap like that. Like it was less than minimum wage. Like at the end of the day, once you calculated all that stuff out and then split the money and, you know, going from there. So I mean, this has been more than anything like a labor of love. And it just got to the point to where we didn't love doing it. And like again, you kind of hit that probably 9 months before we did. And like I don't blame you. And like I like we weren't mad like whenever you decided.
No, we knew it was coming.
Well, we kind of felt it. And also like that's the night you told us that you were feeling that way was when the night we told you we were going to move to Utah. And we're like, oh, well, that kind of worked out, honestly.
Yeah, because you had told me about Utah first, and
yeah, and you're like, well, I was going to talk to you guys.
Yeah, funny you say all that, but yeah, and it just seemed like the perfect timing. Like it just kind of made sense and made it feel right and everything. But I don't know. Do you guys have like a favorite memory from doing this?
That we got so many like lifelong inside jokes that I still like think back on all the time.
I went back to our merch website a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just begging
you buy
for
something?
No, but I thought about buying a hand can't swim duvet or a nipple boys duvet.
Of course, that'd be awesome.
You better do it soon because probably all that stuff's going to be offline very soon.
Well, there's a plug right there. You want some exclusive.
We don't make any money off that stuff. Like we did it as cheap as possible, basically, so anybody that wants it could get it. But I mean, yeah, I don't have a specific like favorite thing. Like, I mean, I think we all kind of realized when we were like in the like prime of it, where it was like we had a lot of momentum, we had a lot of things happening, we had people reaching out to us to come on, and we had, you know, we do Instagram live stuff, we had people talking about us on like Reddit and, you know, all this other stuff. And it's just like I'm able to realize that like we're not in that we're not in that phase anymore. And honestly, we don't have the drive to be like that anymore. Like I was like back then, like I was on Reddit, I was pushing stuff on there, I was on Twitter and Instagram. Jake, I know you were on, you know, our social media stuff as well. And like we were pushing, we were trying to, and it's just like it's just not there. And like I as like kind of sad as it is that it's like this is closing out, at the same time, like, you know, we can all look back and be grateful that like we ever did this. Cause like there was a better than zero chance that we just wouldn't ever do it. But we just like we're all in a place where like, yeah, like let's just get it done and let's try. I mean, I remember recording the first episode, like at our kitchen table
at
our
the first house that we owned.
Yeah.
At the kitchen table. Because I was worried that the mic stands were going to mess up the finish on the wood. And it was really echoey.
That's where we recorded for a while, was up there. And then we transitioned down to like a room in like our basement area. And then once we changed houses, we had a whole podcast room. We were just recording there. And then the one time we finally took Jake on vacation with us, we brought a little Yeti mic. Yep.
and recorded around the
And Hannah and I had done
island.
that a couple times, and like we would like that's the thing. Like we were like we would go on vacations and then like
carve out time to record.
yeah, like to meet up with you and like when you were gone, you would like get away from your family to like that's the thing that like in the totality of it, like I guess people don't realize is like we made this a big priority for a long time.
I think it was Marie our second interview? We
Technically,
interviewed.
yes. She was the first person that agreed to come on, but then Brandon Nelson was able to like jump in there before.
I mean, I was on the beach in Florida.
Were
we
you?
interviewed Marie. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, like it was exciting. And we just, like we were like, oh, well, we never thought we would be able to like have these people on and then just, everything started falling into place. And so, I will say to our credit, like we outlasted a lot of there was a lot of podcasts that came and went in the years that we were doing this. And it's I think that's because like we kind of had our voice and our niche and like we knew what we were doing and like we weren't trying to like copy and whatever. And there's some things that like I don't enjoy about the challenge community, but there's a lot of good from it too.
So Jake, you asked us for our favorite memories. I might have one or two, but I want to hear yours first.
Well, I've mentioned one of them. The time that Zach thumped you on the toe. I mean, there's the interactions with Wes. There's there's the fantasy draft we did with Logan.
Yeah. Which, by the way, they quit like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Nothing against them. Like we get it. Like
yeah. I don't know. I mean, we just had so many like small little things like in the midst of the pod that we would just lose our minds over, start cackling over, like just these real like genuine non-forced moments. I still think you have to go back and listen to the Cam interview.
She never will. Never will. It's been 5 years.
Now I can't. I can't at this point.
I know what that was, episode 7.5, by the way, because we were doing like half numbers for interviews because we were trying to keep up with the sequentialness of the season. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, like I said, I could go through these highlights on my Instagram story and find some different things, but I mean, I loved that it became a ritual every time between watching the episode and recording.
Yeah.
We spent like 30 minutes watching cringe TikTok.
Yeah, that was more in like once we got to the last house we were in. So like pretty much like COVID era, like our COVID era was when we would watch TikTok cringe.
It was awesome.
I loved talking about the 3 types of women.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember what they are, but
Carrie and I are the 3rd type of woman.
Yeah.
Is 3 the best? I don't remember.
Yeah. I was just about to shout out Carrie. She is still a top 3 top woman.
Well, there's only 3 types.
She's
so
the
she's
3rd.
in one of the, okay.
No, she's type 3.
I thought you said top 3.
No, she's a type 3.
I thought you said, well, she's in the top 3 types of women. And I was like, well, there's only 3 types according to you. Yeah, no, as for me, I can't think of a like favorite thing.
I have a handful.
Well, then it's not a favorite.
I have a handful of favorites. One of them is in the middle of recording. This was at the first house, but when we had moved down to the office downstairs in the basement.
Yeah.
The two of you decided that you were going to see who could fit their entire fist in their mouth.
Was that in the basement? I thought that was at the other house.
Because
Jake has a picture of it.
There is a picture of it. Yeah.
Both of you doing it.
Yeah, I remember. I thought that was at the other house.
Oh, it was in the basement. So that was a really good one because neither one of you could really do it, and it turned into who could get their fist further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have your fist made like you're gonna try it right now.
I'm not, but
well, let me just to highlight a few different things that are on my story, like going through, and this was early on. I mean, this is from September 20th of 2018, but
that was only like 2 months in.
Yeah. I don't know if it's Hallie or Haley, but she talked about that the past few seasons her dad has been sucked into watching the challenge with her each week, and that he loved it so much that he listens to our podcast after each episode. And we would listen to Flaw before we recorded. I don't know if you remember Flaw.
I don't remember doing that.
Oh yeah, I like there's it's always cool when I would get shouted out, like the quote, "Nothing quite like the sun hitting a nipple ring just right." Caught on.
Yeah. I don't know if it caught on, but
no, it caught on. Mikey came down and hung out with us one time.
Yeah, he was on.
I totally forgot about
Mikey
that.
came to my house.
Yeah.
That was a big deal.
I totally forgot about that. They took what do they call it, Flat Jake, to Challenge Mania.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and like we had somebody at one of the Challenge Manias or something like that send us a video of the Nolan twins talking about how much they hate us.
Yeah.
Who
are the Nolan twins?
Exactly. That proves.
Wait, why did the Nolan twins hate us?
I don't remember, but I think it may have been kind of like a bit. Someone like, hey, be mean to, but it was. Well, I have a video on my phone that was like, oh, we hate Smashing Heads podcast, and I was like, that's great because they suck.
Maybe that's
wild. I don't even remember that.
Yeah, I've got it. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, but anyway, like I'm just kind of like, scrolling through these. We had Wesley on a couple of times. I don't know if anybody remembers him.
Yeah, who doesn't watch the show.
He didn't watch the show. He showed up to watch one episode and then recorded with us.
Yeah.
Do you remember Han when Zach and I were doing trick shots on his little Nerf hoop?
Yeah.
I've
got videos of you doing it at like 2:30 in the morning.
Hey, it's right over here. Like you can't see it. It's off camera, but it's hanging above that door.
I learned about, you introduced me. I think we all found out about what was then Eskimo Callboy.
Oh yeah.
that
actually showed up on my stories like the other day from like 2 years ago.
They're coming to Salt Lake, but it's sold out.
Yeah.
I can understand why. We won, Zach, you and I won the Challenge Trivia Championship in 2021.
Yeah. And like, I feel like we did really good in that because we thought we were going to be really bad.
Yeah. There's little highlights in here that are, not pod related, but Han and I being absolute units on the tennis court. When we'd run doubles against you and Jeffrey.
Yeah.
We talked to we talked to Cook about Belfies, and then she took a Belfie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cook was cool.
Cook was cool.
She was an alternate on one of the seasons, and then they never brought her on All Stars 1 or 2, whichever one that was.
She recently had a kid, right?
Another one, yeah.
Yeah. So just a few little deals there that are just fun to go back and look at.
I liked because I think the setting that we were in opened up the door for conversations for me to hear stories of the things that the two of you did when you were teenagers and a lot younger, that prior to the podcast, I had never even heard that you guys did some of this stuff. And so that was something that I really enjoyed.
A lot of times, like it would just like trigger like anybody.
We talk about something and it would remind one of you of something that you guys did. That was a lot of fun. And then
what she just did right there is one of my favorite things, is when you would get on these thoughts, Han, and then you would just stop talking for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
We would just sit there like, what's happening? Where'd she go?
Oh, well, it's because I've got.
Oh no!
Like I'll start talking, and I have like 10 different thoughts that are trying to make their way out of my mouth at the same time, and so my brain is fighting itself on what am I going to say out loud?
Jake,
what thought am I going to follow?
Earlier today, we were going to lunch, and she was like, she was talking about how she wanted.
I got it. I'm going to preface it. So I was leaving to go get lunch, And he decided he was going to go with me. And I was like, well, I'm going to one of two places, but I never said what they were.
And I said, that's fine. I was like, I'll figure it out. I'll get something at one of the two places. Because with her, she'll be like, I don't know what I want. And you'll name 8 places. And she's like, I don't want that. I don't want. And it's like, well, then I don't know. I'm done with this.
I have to go through a process of elimination.
But anyway, I was like, that's fine. We'll go to one of the two. It doesn't matter to me. I'll figure something out. And so we're going out. And she was like, I want either Noodles and Company, or she said,
I said Noodles and Company was one of them.
Yeah, it was choice one.
And then because I thought of Noodles and Company, that made me think of the macaroni salad that's at Mo Betta's, which is a Hawaiian place.
So she's like, yeah, or Mo Betta's. And I was like, that's fine. I can do either one of those. And then before we're out of the parking lot, she's like, really, my choice is one.
No, I told you. I was like, I didn't tell you what the one of two places were. And you're like, you just said them. And I was like, no, Mo Betta's was not one of the two. Noodles and Company was one. And then Taco Bell was the other.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so we leave the parking lot of our apartment and we get on the interstate, and the interstate's right beside our apartment. And so like 2 minutes later, she goes, I never told you what the other two choices were. And I was like, yes, you did. And she's like, no, I didn't. And at the same time, we said Taco Bell and Noodles and Company. And I was like, yeah, you just told me this. It's like, I didn't. And I was like, how would I know what they were then? I was like, we just had this conversation in the parking lot.
Well, and that brings me back to something that just never got solved on this pod.
No,
the hot dog.
The hot
freaking
dog.
hot dog. I didn't eat the hot dog. Why would I? Why would I eat the hot dog? I don't like hot dogs.
Here's the thing. It never was, did Hannah eat the hot dog? It was, what did she do with it?
Yeah.
Because it's gone.
I have nothing. What would I do with a lone hot dog? Because you had the same amount of buns. I didn't take a bun.
Exactly.
So I didn't take a hot dog either.
Well, then that
we had men come in our house to look at our electrical because we had just moved in that house and it needed a lot of work. We had men come and check it out.
So you're blaming a repairman.
It is more likely that they took the hot dog than me because
he
I
stole
don't
a
like
raw
hot
dog.
I don't like hot dogs. I don't like how slimy they feel. Like I can't do it. So I know it wasn't me.
We didn't say you ate it.
There are so many stories that come up like the one that Zach just shared.
Yeah.
That would indicate that whether you ate it or threw it in the trash or shoved it down the disposal, gave it to the dog, you had something to do with the disappearance of the hot dog.
Not a chance.
100%.
Listen, Han, I can relate. Do you know how, like, I can relate to your mind being a million different places at once because I'll be on the phone in my kitchen. I've done this, and I'll, in the midst of coming home with groceries and putting them in the fridge, I've set my keys in the fridge and then wondered where the crap my keys were. And then they're in the fridge. Why would I put my keys in the fridge? Because I'm just not thinking. So, you know.
You did that with a hot dog.
No.
You probably
went out and tried to start your car with it. I mean.
I didn't do one thing with that hot dog. If anything, if the repairman didn't take the hot dog, one of two things has happened. One, you took it to give Buster medicine for something.
No, I don't give him a whole hot dog to take medicine.
You would have like broken it off,
no, I wouldn't.
shoved the pill inside a little like 1-inch piece to make him eat it, and then just given him the rest of the hot dog.
I would not have done that because that's such a waste. Because those hot dogs are Hebrew National all beef hot dogs. They're not cheap. I would have just gotten like a piece of cheese or something to do that. I wouldn't have given him a whole hot dog.
Or peanut butter.
Then
you can't have peanut butter. Never mind.
Have peanut butter in the house. If you're so adamant that you didn't do that, then there was a ghost that took the hot dog.
Yeah, the ghost of your brain
framing me. I didn't do it. I didn't do one thing with that stupid hot dog.
It's I don't know what episode that is. I couldn't tell you, but if you want to search back and listen,
it's been a recurring theme for years.
But it happened. It was a revelation in the middle of a show one time. And so I mean, it is what it is.
I liked all the stories that you told about Perry. Rest in peace.
Oh, he did die.
You don't remember
Yeah.
that?
I do, but like I don't think about it a lot.
Okay, so Perry passed away. And
It's
we
your grandfather, Zach.
his
Technically step grandfather, but yeah,
step-grandfather, but
he was there since I was like
grandfather.
7. Yeah.
He did pass away because his funeral was while we were at home for Christmas.
Yeah, it honestly was like good timing because we were already back in Tennessee. But yeah. Yeah,
Boy, I cried at that funeral.
I didn't because I had to sit
cried.
on the front row with a bunch of people that I didn't know, and was not very fun. Because again, he had a whole side of his family that we didn't really, because like his like, I guess paternal family, and then I guess previous marriage, and then this it is a whole
He
other
had
thing.
a bunch of grandkids.
Yeah. So yeah, I again I don't think I have a single thing. I just look back on most of it with like fond memories and just the fact that
we used to do Instagram lives before we would record. So like we would watch the new episode, get on live for about 20 minutes while Zach was setting up for recording, and then Jake and I would like answer questions.
Yeah. By the way, I'm the only one of the 3 of us who's been on every single episode.
Isn't that wild? Look
Yeah.
at you.
Yeah. Hannah was out the most, and then Jake, you had a couple for just random reasons that you couldn't do, and then obviously once you left. But yeah, if you're listening, you got stuck with me for this whole time.
I don't remember what was said, but I do remember there were a few times where I was either sick or had a migraine and had taken medication prior to recording.
Uh-huh.
And I just remember Jake really enjoyed that.
Yeah, those were some of the best pods.
Because I would say stuff that didn't make sense because I was
What else is new?
high on drugs.
Yeah.
That's where the hot dog went. You're probably high out of your mind on migraine medicine, and you're like, you know what? I want to just eat this hot dog.
No, because
Sure.
the thing is, like when my migraine medication, I won't eat for hours.
You're probably like, you know what?
I can't eat.
I hate hot dogs. I need to get rid of one.
You probably just were, doing like he would do for Buster and putting your medication into a hot dog.
Yeah,
Ugh.
that'll do it.
That makes me feel like I'm gonna vomit.
Some of this medication will make you it'll wipe your mind clean.
Yeah, like Men in Black.
Yeah.
It's we I guess we can't talk about it I guess on here just because a lot of people haven't seen it yet. But I was gonna say we all have seen Guardians 3 at this point.
Yeah.
Jake, I didn't know you'd seen it. I told you earlier that we went to see it Tuesday night.
I texted you. I told you. I said Jake was texting me, and we were at the movies, and I was like, "We're at Guardians 3," and he said, "Oh, Hannah's gonna hate it."
Oh,
And
that's right.
exactly. So she remembers.
I cried a lot.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
It was
We
because
don't
of all
need
the
to get into
animals.
specifics.
But
yeah.
also not because of the movie, but because the last 2 weeks at my job have been absolutely insane, and just the sheer stress of it all. I finally broke down last weekend. Like I cried at our office downtown. I went for a meeting just to be like a pillar of support for the guy that was taken over. And I cried that day in the office talking to him. And then last Thursday, I was with 2 of my coworkers from the downtown office that were in the new office that I work in. And I cried with them. And then Zach and I watched Infinity War last, I think, either
because
Thursday
we're
or
working
Friday.
through the MCU in like timeline order. Even like we've already seen Infinity War and Endgame on all that, but
yeah, and that's what's so crazy because like we had already seen these movies and I knew everything that was happening while we were watching. I was like talking through the movie, like, oh yeah, this is when this happens and this is about to happen. He's gonna die here, and so we watched Infinity War either Thursday night or Friday night, and I cried and cried and cried, and then I think it was Sunday night we watched Endgame, and I wept through that whole movie.
I didn't notice that.
I
didn't notice it.
I think because I was trying so hard to cry everything out from my work situation that it finally, like, I finally cracked, and we watched those movies basically back to back, and it was just the fire hydrant was completely broken, and I just cried and cried and cried. And then so that was Sunday night for Endgame, and then Tuesday night was Guardians 3, and I cried through.
I didn't cry.
It really
I cried.
it really did it for you when Will Poulter showed up as Adam Warlock, didn't it?
Yes,
I gotta
that
say
was a lot of it.
Well, I don't want to get in. I'm not gonna get into any spoil. Everyone knows he's in that movie, but yeah, I to me, I think Guardians 1, 2, and 3 is the best trilogy in the MCU.
Yeah. But next on your watch is your watch list is the Snyder cut of the Justice League.
It's actually the
not.
Eternals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we watched Shang-Chi last night.
Yeah.
Well, that'll really make Dawson's nod if you let him know.
We watched the Eternals.
Does he
Yeah. He swears by the Eternals.
I don't think
Oh,
it's going to be
gosh.
as bad as what
Well,
everyone made it out to be.
Granted,
That's a countertop.
Dawson also went to watch
He watched Elvis in
He
theaters like
watched
6
Elvis
times.
in theaters like 6 times.
And I mean, he did go see Top Gun Maverick like 5 or 6 times, but I've heard that's great. I haven't seen it yet.
But he went and paid money to see Elvis in theaters multiple times.
Yeah.
So we were at this we were hanging out with this group of people, and they wanted to play a game to kick things off. Basically, it's 2 truths, 1 lie, and you have to pick out the lie.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that game.
It's typically a drinking game.
Well, there was no alcohol.
Yeah.
There were a lot of hot dogs.
You had to eat a hot dog if you instead of taking a shot, you had to eat a hot dog.
Yeah. So they came around to Dawson, and I forget what his
wild.
I forget what one of the 3 were, but one was I was a top chef at a world famous restaurant.
Oh my god!
And he was almost he almost moved to Hollywood to be a filmmaker. And the third, I forget what the third one was, but it was just as outrageous. And
Wait,
my
it's supposed
wife,
to be 2 truths and a lie.
yeah,
Or 2 lies and a truth.
Two,
yeah, both of those are
2 lies.
No. Well, we did. There's 1 lie.
and you have to pick out the lie.
Yeah, but both of the things you just said
Both of those things. So
not true.
He wasn't a chef. He learned how to fix
was a
chicken and
fry
dressing.
cook. Yeah.
He was a fry cook at a local
he fried
restaurant in a
hush puppy.
town of about 900 people.
Yeah.
He also, yes, has done video before, but he never ever came close to moving to Hollywood. And so when he said his 3 things,
What was the lie?
My wife popped up and said, "Dawson, those are all lies."
Yeah.
But I forget what the third one was, but it was just as outrageous. Like, it was like he took something that was kind of true.
Oh, man, that's
There's a true version of it, but it's because he started rattling them off, and I looked at her and I was like, this boy's just
when he said the
lying.
first one, and when he's like, I was just whatever, you're like, okay, that's his lie.
That's
Yeah.
clearly that's the lie.
Now, it was a dream of his to
But
go to
that's not-
Hollywood and be a
that's not-
filmmaker, but that's not
That's not
that's
a
not
truth.
something he almost did
Yeah.
at any point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Anyway,
I miss that kid.
you had to.
We play Rocket League together, me and you and him.
Yeah.
He's really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys should text him and let him know what you think of the Eternals, because he swears by that movie.
Yeah.
Dawson's my brother anyway, for those who are unfamiliar.
Yeah. Well,
I'll text him after we watch it.
yeah, we probably won't watch it tonight. Because I think it's kind of long, and it's just, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff we got to do still. So yeah, I guess Jake, you gotta get out of here. And so
Bye.
well, no. I mean, I guess, we've kind of said everything we need to say. I don't feel like we left anything like unturned that, needed.
No stone unturned.
Yeah. So, I mean, more than anything, I think I can speak for all 3 of us when I say, we're very grateful and thankful for anyone who ever listened, downloaded, participated in anything we did. And went way further than we ever expected.
Thanks for the support.
Yeah.
Just even like your words of encouragement.
Yeah.
The Slack group was so much fun in its heyday. Talking about like, I know like Corn Dog Katie would help me go through like the best boiled custards to drink around Christmas time. I just thought that was fun. And then just like hot takes and just ganging up on Jake for stuff.
Oh yeah.
Well, what I was saying was that again, anyone who's ever, participated or done anything to support us, we're all super grateful. I'm not going to 100% definitely say that you will never hear from any of us again. But at this moment, I don't know what the future holds. And there's no plans as of right now, right? Like, it's not like we're like, all right, in 6 months, we're going to get this back together and whatever. We're just trying to be open and just kind of leave it to whatever comes down the road. But
it's never off the table.
It's never off the table.
Because of how much fun we had and how much we enjoyed it. Like, I learned more about the two of you during this podcast than ever before.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you talk just off the cuff for, 2 hours a week, at least, stuff's going to come out. And so, all that to be said, again, we wanted to bring Jake back. It only felt right to do that, to kind of encapsulate this whole experience. And, maybe there's some things that are going to come down the road, not related to this. I may have some stuff hopefully coming some point, but it won't be a challenge or related to this podcast. But I'll let anyone know if that comes. If any of us have anything going on that we want everyone to know about, we will for sure like push that out through our social channels, even if they're not super active anymore. But other than that, like, again, thank you. We had a ton of fun, and it's just, this feels right. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm not crying over it or debating whatever. It just feels like the right time. And so until we meet again,
have a good night, everyone.